Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Greater Freedom podcast. Today, I am joined by another very special guest, Hannah, who is a self-development coach and founder of the Actualisation Academy. Cannot wait for our conversation today, talking all things wellness, self-development, positivity, and freedom. So I'm going to let Hannah introduce herself before we jump into the conversation. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell the listeners a little bit more about you and your business.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm genuinely very excited, and freedom is it's such a beautiful topic to kind of center in on. So a little bit about me. I worked in the luxury fashion and lifestyle PR world for 10 years. And during that time, if anyone knows this industry, it's very fast paced. There's lots of big egos to contend with. And I am very ambitious and I'm very proud of my work ethic. But I then in 2017 experienced a really, really chronic burnout where I wound up in a wheelchair. I was completely unable to work. I couldn't even walk, so I definitely couldn't work. And I battled with this on and off for about 2 years. So my career had to totally recalibrate. I did stay in the industry, but my priorities changed and I learned new ways of sustaining a successful career as well as health. And then fast forward a few years, last year I retrained as a professional life and performance coach while I was still working in the industry. And then this year I finally transitioned and launched the Actualisation Academy, which I now run full time. And within the academy, I work with private clients, one-on-one coaching. And then I also work with businesses, which I do training and workshops. Some beautiful bosses have even paid for me to do one-on-one coaching with their team.
Amazing.
Which I admire so much and wish everyone would do that. But yeah, it's quite a fun experience working with different clients because they all have slightly different needs. So I get to kind of meander and bend and find out new ways of being of service in that way. But that's where I am up to present day career-wise.
Yeah, amazing. Actually, quite similar to my journey in terms of doing the training. I did my transformational life coaching qualification whilst I was still working. And I look back sort of semi-naively, but also with a smile on my face thinking, oh, it might be something that I do like 5 years down the line, but it's a good thing to have. And, I'll just see how I enjoy it. And then the more I did it and the more I started working with clients and sort of building my practice hours, the more I was like, this is what I want to be doing. This is where I feel purpose and fulfillment and those little things. I'm sure you can relate. I worked for a FMCG marketing company, and there was one time where people were getting super stressed about a campaign that was going late in Sainsbury's by like a day. And I just thought, no, I get it, but I'm not passionate about this, So it's it's nice to see how our journeys are quite similar in terms of like weaning out of that and going into setting up our own business. So you mentioned your experience with burnout, which we have actually spoken about before over on your Instagram. So if people are interested to hear a little bit more about that, then definitely head over to Hannah's Instagram. But I'd be keen to know whether at that point, freedom was something that you had recognized as being a value of yours that was missing, and what it was, and what did that journey look like into, okay, I'm in a place now where I've got to a place where I physically have become so overcome with stress or, burnout or lack of misalignment, and then going from that place to where you are now. Like, what did that look like to you?
God, thinking about that time through the lens of freedom actually makes me feel really emotional, because I think of that, I'm going to say young woman. I know it was only 5 years ago, but it kind of started 6 years ago where I was just abusing my body and I had no freedom. I look at everything now with, I call it the health triangle. So mental, physical, and spiritual, mind, body, soul, really.
Mm.
And I look back at that time and I was completely bereft in all three corners of that health triangle. And therefore I had no freedom. When I then got sick, I was literally a prisoner in my own room. And I used to look outside. I lived in Australia at the time, and I would see, like, this sounds very cliche, but I had a palm tree like at the front of the house. And the leaves would like wave almost at me through the window, and I could see the sun like speckled coming through into my room, but I couldn't be out there. And I just thought, I don't want to live a life where I can only see the beauty like away from me, but I can't reach it. And honestly, like, I've been through a fair few trials and tribulations in my life, but that was my lowest moment, because before I got really sick, I had hit a point where I was like ready to turn things around and I wanted to do well by myself. And then for that to happen when I felt like I was making better choices, it cut me so deep. And so I had to dig deep and find the fight to want to continue and to get freedom back. And I don't think the word freedom came into my mind, but that is exactly what I wanted. And it's freedom of, okay, yes, the literal freedom of being able to get up and walk out of my home, and do the things I physically wanted to do. But like the freedom to not be shackled by mental struggles, the freedom to know who I am as a woman in this world on a deep soul level, the freedom to connect with other human beings on a deep soul level. And all of that was taken from me. And it suddenly, that's why I say, like, my priorities changed. Like, that became the number one priority. I still want a beautiful career, but actually I want a career that aligns with that priority, where I do get to connect with people on a deep level. I get to be of service, and I always say that with the caveat, like, you can be of service in any industry. You don't have to move into the wellness industry to be of service in that way. Like, you can be an accountant and be of service. It's really about your intention. But I wanted the opportunity to show up as my most authentic self and find that freedom in my body and spirit. So it was a really tough time in my life, but it shaped everything that was to follow. And I'm really happy to say that right now, in this moment, in 2022, I am in the happiest, most free chapter of my life I've had to date. So the pain and the struggle is worth it, because it does teach you so much.
Yeah, I think I mean, knowing you now, it just shows how far you have come and the changes that you've made, the risks, the hurdles, the lessons that you've learned. And unfortunately, quite often it does take big life events or big traumas or burnouts or situations for us to think, actually, this is not okay anymore, and I do need to make drastic changes. And I suppose if we kind of zoom out a little bit to people who might be listening, who are identifying that actually maybe I don't have as much freedom in my life that I desire, which I think ironically happened to me, but I think ironically happens to a lot of people when you set up your own business. One of the reasons why you do it is to have more freedom to travel, to be spontaneous with your time, to have more autonomy over your time, freedom to work with the clients that you want to work with, etc. But then ironically, because so many of us have been in a corporate scenario, you are so conditioned to working certain number of hours per day, sitting at a desk from 8:30 to 5:30, taking, maybe 20 days of annual leave per year. And you end up essentially having less freedom than ever before, despite having made such, big changes in your life. So now that you have experienced more freedom and you are living a reality where you do have more freedom, what are some of the either boundaries or non-negotiables that you have in place in your business and your life that enables you to keep enjoying that freedom as your business continues to grow?
Okay, three things come to mind from that question. First of all, before I left my last position of full-time employment, what pushed me to be confident to take that leap was actually an assault on my boundaries. So I don't drink and haven't drunk for 6 years. And I communicated that where I worked, and I kept on being put on alcohol brands. And after the fourth formal conversation about it, it happened again. And I just, I thought, well, what advice would I give someone else? Well, I'm not a quit it kind of person. Like, I don't think that just because something's not perfectly agreeable, we should walk away. But when it gets to a point, it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. What do I do at the fifth? Well, I have to walk away. And so I actually think it was the universe nudging me in the right direction.
Yeah.
But it had to be, I think freedom in work has to also be value aligned. And being really respectful of your boundaries to yourself. And then in work today, my number one priority is health, physical, mental, and spiritual still, but that comes first. So actually, I don't fully relate to copying the corporate template in running my own business. I get up early because I'm a morning person, but I don't actually start work that early. So I get up at 6, but I probably don't start work till 10. I meditate, pray, exercise, eat breakfast, like cook breakfast and eat it away from my computer. Maybe read on a good day, maybe get outside on a good day. And then start working at 10. So, and I'll take long lunch breaks if I want to. But not to be idle. As I said at the beginning, I am very ambitious and I have really big hopes and dreams for my business, and I trust it. But without my well-being, I know I'm not going to be able to be of service. So it's those things in the morning, like investing in my body, investing in my nutrition, making sure my mind is attuned. I'm digesting helpful information, not redundant information. And then my third point is, I worked freelance in the PR world once before, actually, when I was recovering from the burnout, before I had the strength to work full time again. And I remember whenever a business opportunity would come up, I would kind of just twist and distort myself and try and, have this mentality of say yes now and figure it out later. And I still believe that is a marker of a successful business person. You don't have to have all the answers. And I think as women, we often think, well, I haven't done that before, but no one has done it before their first time. Everyone that knows how to do it did it for a first time at some point. So it's not that prevents me, but it's it's a value and a choice thing now. So if an opportunity falls in my lap that doesn't serve the greater vision of what I'm trying to achieve with the Actualisation Academy, I no longer feel insecure to say no thank you. And that comes from the freedom of fear and not worrying about where the next invoice is going to come from. I don't have it all mapped out. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know who's going to pay me when, what business is going to come my way in the next even 3 months. But I have faith, and I deeply, deeply know that I am doing purpose-aligned, value-aligned work. I feel on a soul level I'm good at the work I do. I show up as my best self and I work hard. So I know that the rest will follow. So I don't need to say yes to opportunities that don't align with my vision.
Yeah, because I think I love what you're saying there, and I totally agree. It sort of takes that initial trial of, okay, let's say yes to some of these things at the beginning. Well, this is what I did anyway. And then you realize actually that didn't feel that good, or I felt resentment, in the lead up to delivering that workshop. Maybe that's a sign that it is misaligned. But actually by saying yes to the monetary side of things, that sort of milestone, or what is it, like shiny object syndrome of like, oh, it's, quite well paid, I'll say yes. But you're then neglecting freedom in other areas of your business, in other areas of your life that actually are going to serve you more powerfully in the long run. So you're shutting off the freedom, energetically, because you're putting so much time and energy into this project that, yes, might be paying you more than you've been paid in the past, but at the detriment of your health, your mind, your body, as you say. And I think it does take a bit of time to understand that, and to understand what your values are. And as you say, having the confidence to say no, because especially in the first year or two of your business, there might be some uncertainty, but that's why the mindset work is so, so important. And I don't think is necessarily something that is spoken about as much as it could do online, because we're so focused on, either the strategy side of things or hitting 5-figure months, or, which is great and is exciting. But unless we're combining the mind, body, soul work, we're not going to create that holistic success that I know we spoke about in our last conversation, which is what's going to lead to the sustainable business, the ease, the flow, the enjoyment, the fulfillment that I'm sure we all are desiring at the same time.
Yeah, 100%.
It's an interesting one, because it is that balance, but it's sort of, it's staying true to yourself, I think, as well, of like, I know I'm good at what I do. I know that there is more out there. I know that, the opportunities are unlimited. And actually saying no is going to feel really good for my reasons.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just thinking of that on even a micro level, where I had someone reach out to me for one-on-one private coaching, and we arranged a chemistry call, which is, for anyone listening that doesn't know, is like a free call where you get to check if you like the vibe of the coach, and the coach gets to check that they're the right person for you. And twice I logged on to the Zoom, she didn't show. So then got her phone number and called her at an agreed time, didn't answer. And then again, it's like that for me once, I was like, I'm not going to chase you. You're not going to, even if you did decide to buy some sessions, you're not going to show up and care. I don't want to work with people that aren't in it wholeheartedly, and that's not to say if you set a goal in a session and you don't see it through, I'm going to be like, bye. It's always about the why, I'm not a teacher, I'm not here to mark your homework, but I do want to connect with people, as I said, on that like deeper level. And I just don't think that she was ready. So not chasing it out of financial desperation, I think is so key.
Yeah. And thinking about your kind of where your business is now, obviously you mentioned that you're experiencing, more freedom and fulfillment than ever potentially. What are some of the changes that you've made, let's say in the last 6 months or recently, that you think has been credit to where you are now? So whether that's tweaks in terms of the business itself, whether that's processes or systems or hours working, or on a more broader lifestyle perspective, anything that you kind of think of that you can pin to actually this new found freedom that you're enjoying at the moment?
So I would say on a personal level, it would just be, I'm morning routine obsessed, have been for years, but just understanding even more about the science behind like why the things that we're told to do actually do benefit us if they do. Excuse me. And I'm in the most like authentic chapter of my life. I got married this year. I know you're engaged as well. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm just like, I'm in a relationship beyond my wildest dreams that's healthy, and I'm obsessed with him. It's great.
Yeah.
And I really love the woman that I am today, and I'm really proud of me, and I enjoy showing up as Hannah each day. So that feels really freeing. And then on a business sense, so I am sure if you haven't read it, you know it, but I'm obsessed with The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yes.
And in it, he has this this matrix of urgent versus important tasks.
Yeah.
And he talks about quadrant 2 is the one that we should focus on, which is important but not urgent. And I think in this capitalist economy that we live in, we sit in quadrant 1, which is urgent and important. So it's crisis management. It's like these kind of putting out of fires, deadline chasing strategies. Whereas the important but not urgent is actually kind of alluding back to the way that you framed your question. The systems, the processes that offer more freedom. So right now, so June, July, August, September, I've only been running my business full time for 4 months. So it's not like I am flat out wall to wall every single day serving clients. Right now, I have the luxury to invest in the processes. So whether that's things like email sequences to make them look beautiful and take time and care over the construction of them, but then have that as a system that runs itself. So I launched a membership club this month called the A Club, and we learn human skills, or I teach human skills, like from time management to setting boundaries. I have accountability calls, and it's this really great community that is developing. And I don't have to do manual onboarding now when I get a new member joining the club. It's all set up, it runs itself. So that's really freeing. And actually, I'm listening to the audiobook very late to the party on this, but the 4-hour work week, and that is essentially all about the freedom that comes from automated processes, really, to summarize it. So I'm trying to learn more about that. I'm sure you can attest to this. When you start a business as a coach, you know how to coach, but learning how to run the business is a new facet. But I'm actually loving that part of it.
I think it's like identifying, where could I save a little bit of time, or where would make it a more seamless experience, or what. Sometimes it's outsourcing as well. It's like, actually isn't going to be how I can best use my time and energy, so I'm going to make that investment in myself. It doesn't necessarily have to be a huge investment depending on what it is, but just setting it up, because it's like the future business that you are creating actually happens now, versus when I have X number of clients, then I will need to find a system that is automated. It's like, no, set that up now, put those things in process, learn how to do it as well, which I always think is important, even if you then outsource, because you always know how to do it if you need to then tweak it or change providers further down the line. And
I would say to a manager in a like traditional business setup, like, you shouldn't ask anyone to do something you don't know how to do yourself. So, and I was just listening to the chapter last night where he was Tim Ferriss was talking about virtual assistants, and you need to be so clear in your communication, in your task delegation, to get the result that you want, the output that you want. Assumption makes an ass out of you and me, as they say. So it's like, just it's so important you know how to do these things. And actually, this is something I kind of try and gently suggest to my husband, because he runs his own business and has been for a lot longer than I have, and is doing really well. And he set up his business because he kind of got to the top of the ladder in his industry. And when he is spending so much time on like menial tasks, I'm like, babe, how much would you charge a client per hour of your time? And he'll say that. And I'm like, is this task worth that amount? Like, surely there is someone else that can do this for you. So I have managed to get him to hire a VA, but he's just not great at, I shouldn't say that, he's not familiar or like used to handing over the tasks that they could do yet. I think that takes a little getting used to. So let's watch this space and see how that grows. I think those are great suggestions. And I like the fact that you mentioned the kind of business side of things, but actually the life part of it as well. It's like,
And I'm a massive morning routine fan as well. So I'm very much with you on that. And it is so important. You know, I always say, how can you start your day doing something for you that brings you joy or connects you or grounds you, or, you know, it's like that movement piece, but it's the mind intentional action as well, in terms of, rather than going through the motions, actually, what would I love to do this morning, or what would make me feel good, or what would best serve me today? And then choosing from maybe a selection of your favorite little rituals or practices that, you know, do provide that experience.
Yeah, for sure. I like that you said about choosing from a selection. I built a like build your own morning routine pack, so that you can see, like, I don't do the exact same thing every day. As I said, you kind of choose a sequence that works for that schedule, that day, or that mood. But what I do want to just caveat what we're talking about with is obviously acknowledging the privilege that we do work for ourselves. I, for one, work at home, so I have time to, you know, I can do an hour's workout in my living room, and I don't have a commute. Like, my desk is also in my living room, as you can see. And I know people, I really recently worked full time in an office, so I understand the demands on a morning in that scenario, and also for people who are parents or parents. But what I will say is that I have catered for all of those eventualities or circumstances in the pack, because you can do it. You can have a morning routine in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You can take one more minute when you get out of the shower to do a really, like, a one-piece skincare routine, and just the action of like massaging and touching your face is really good for your central nervous system. It also makes you feel a little bit more like luxurious, like you've done something for yourself. And you can do like a 4-minute guided meditation, and like not do a workout, but you could like physically stretch, do a downward dog in your bedroom before you get dressed. Maybe shut the curtains if you're going to do that. But you know, it can take 10 minutes after your shower before you run out into the kitchen and grab a banana. That will still have an effect. So you don't need 4 hours or whatever, however long.
It's finding what works for you and working within your environment, your responsibilities, your, you know, commitments. But as you say, there is a way of doing it. It's just finding that rhythm or routine for you based on your situation. Yeah, totally. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a wonderful conversation. I feel like we could chat away for hours. For those of you, or for those listening that aren't familiar with you, Hannah, please could you share your Instagram details, anything else that you would like to mention, and I'll leave the links in the description box as well. Thank you for that. So yeah, my personal Instagram is Hanjanran, HANJANRAN, which is the first 3 letters of my names before I got married. And the business is at the Actualisation Academy, and my website is the same, theactualisationacademy.com. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you everyone who has tuned in. I will catch you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you. Bye.